Most people do not realize retirement is not one big moment where life suddenly becomes peaceful because a calendar says you reached the right age. Retirement is not a finish line. It is a mirror. It shows you what your habits, your debts, your relationships, your savings, your health, your patience, and your past decisions have been quietly building for decades. And that is why so many people feel shocked when they finally get there. They worked for 30 or 40 years. They paid bills. They raised children. They bought cars. They took vacations when they could. They told themselves they would get serious about money later, when things calmed down. But later arrives wearing a different face. Later arrives with a fixed income, higher medical costs, a tired body, adult children who may still need help, and a bank account that does not care how hard you worked. Warren Buffett has spent his life teaching a simple idea that sounds almost too boring to respect. What matters most is not the flashy decision, but the repeated decision, the small habit, the quiet margin, the patience to let time work instead of constantly fighting time. And when you apply that idea to retirement, 5 brutal truths appear. They are not cruel because they are complicated. They are cruel because they are simple, and because most people only understand them when the years that could have fixed them are already gone. The first brutal truth is this: retirement does not forgive lifestyle inflation. It exposes it. Imagine a man named Robert. At 28, Robert gets his first serious promotion. His income jumps, and for the first time, he feels like he can breathe. He tells himself he deserves a better car because he has been driving the old one for years. Then the nicer apartment, and better restaurants, then upgraded vacations because, after all, he works hard. None of those choices feel reckless in the moment. In fact, each one feels reasonable. That is the danger. Lifestyle inflation rarely walks into your life dressed like a disaster. It walks in dressed like a reward. You tell yourself, I am not rich, but I can afford this. And maybe you can. But the question is not whether you can afford the payment this month. The real question is whether your future self can afford the habit you are training your life to require. This is where many people lose retirement without ever noticing the moment it happened. They do not lose it in one huge mistake. They lose it in thousands of small upgrades that become permanent expectations. The bigger house becomes normal. The leased car becomes normal. The expensive phone becomes normal. The premium groceries, the subscriptions, the convenience purchases, the little weekend escapes, all become part of a life that feels ordinary. But ordinary can become extremely expensive when the paycheck stops. Buffett's philosophy has always respected the gap between what you earn and what you keep. Wealth is not the income that passes through your hands. Wealth is the part that stays, grows, and quietly begins working for you. If every raise becomes a new expense, then income is not building freedom. It is only building a more expensive cage. The painful thing about lifestyle inflation is that it steals twice. First, it takes the money you could have invested. Then, it raises the amount you will need to retire comfortably. A person who learns to live happily on $45,000 a year has a very different retirement target from a person who trains themselves to need $95,000 a year just to feel normal. One person needs a modest machine. The other needs a factory. This is why 2 people can earn the same income for decades and arrive at retirement in completely different emotional worlds. One has flexibility. The other has a lifestyle that keeps sending invoices long after the job is gone. The second brutal truth is that time is the most powerful asset in retirement planning, and it is also the one asset you cannot replace. People often think investing is about finding the perfect stock, the perfect fund, the perfect moment, or the perfect strategy. But for ordinary people, the most powerful ingredient is usually not genius. It is time. Time is the quiet worker that never asks for applause. It takes small amounts of money and, given enough years, turns them into something that feels almost unfair. But time has one condition. You must give it room to work before you desperately need the result. Think of two women, Emily and Corinne. Emily starts investing $300 a month at age 25. She is not wealthy. She does not have secret information. She simply starts early and continues. Corinne waits until age 40 because life feels too busy. Before that, she tells herself she will catch up later when her income is higher. Corinne may invest more money each month, and she may work very hard, but she is now asking money to do in 25 years what Emily allowed it to do in 40. That is a completely different assignment. Compounding is like planting an oak tree. At first, it looks almost silly. You put a small acorn in the ground, and nothing dramatic happens. There is no applause. No one is impressed. Your friends may buy things that look more exciting. But underground, something is happening. Roots are forming. Strength is building. The mistake people make is they judge the acorn too early. They say, "This is too slow. This is not changing my life." But the oak tree does not apologize for being slow. Its slowness is part of its power. Retirement punishes people who keep waiting for the perfect time, because the perfect time often becomes a story. They tell themselves to avoid starting imperfectly. The brutal truth is that waiting does not feel expensive while you are doing it. You still have income. You still have years ahead of you. You still feel like there will be another chance. But every year you delay is not just one lost year of contributions. It is one lost year of growth on every dollar that could have been planted. The future cost of procrastination is invisible, which is why it is so dangerous. If someone took $100,000 from your retirement account in one day, you would be furious. But when delay quietly prevents that $100,000 from ever existing, most people feel nothing. They call it life. They call it being busy. They call it waiting until things settle down. But life rarely settles down. It simply changes the name of the problem. First it is student loans, then rent, then children, then aging parents, then medical expenses, then job uncertainty. If you wait for a perfectly calm season to build wealth, you may wait until the season when wealth would have protected you. The third brutal truth is that retirement is not only about money, it is about cash flow. Many people enter retirement looking at a number and asking, "Is this enough?" But a pile of money and a dependable income stream are not the same emotional experience. A large account balance can still create fear if every month feels like you are draining a bathtub and hoping the water lasts. This is why Buffett often talks about businesses in terms of earning power, not just price. The same idea applies to your personal life. In retirement, your assets need to feed you. They need to produce, support, or protect your monthly life. A paid-off house may give emotional comfort, but it does not automatically pay for groceries. A retirement account may look impressive, but if it is invested poorly, withdrawn too aggressively, or shaken by market declines at the wrong moment, it can become a source of anxiety. This is where people discover the difference between being asset-rich and cash flow secure. Consider a couple named Linda and Mark. On paper, they seem fine. They own a home worth a lot more than they paid for it. Their neighbors assume they are comfortable, but most of that wealth is locked in walls, a roof, and memories. Their monthly income is thin. Property taxes rise. Insurance rises. Repairs do not ask permission. The house is valuable, but it is not writing them a check every month. They are not poor in the way statistics might define poverty, but they feel squeezed in the way retirement actually feels when cash flow is weak. This is one of the most painful retirement surprises. People spend decades thinking net worth is the scoreboard, but retirement lives month to month. Can your income cover your needs without forcing you to sell at bad times? Can you handle a medical bill, a roof repair, or a family emergency without panic? Can you take money from investments without destroying the machine that must keep producing? For the rest of your life? These are cash flow questions. A smart retirement plan does not just ask, "How much do I have?" It asks, "What does this money do?" Does it produce dividends, interest, rental income, or sustainable withdrawals? Does it sit in cash losing purchasing power? Is it concentrated in one asset? Is it protected from one bad year becoming a permanent wound? Many people learn too late that retirement security comes from building systems, not just collecting numbers. Money should become a set of workers. Some workers produce income. Some workers protect you from emergencies. Some workers grow for later years. Some workers reduce your monthly obligations by eliminating debt. When all your money has a job, retirement becomes less like hoping and more like managing a small, disciplined operation. The fourth brutal truth is that debt becomes heavier when your income becomes smaller. During your working years, debt can feel normal because income keeps arriving. A car payment, a credit card balance, a personal loan, a mortgage, maybe even a home equity loan, all feel manageable as long as the paycheck is strong. But retirement changes the physics. The same payment that felt annoying at 50 can feel suffocating at 70. Debt is not just a number. Debt is a claim on your future. Cash flow. And when future cash flow is limited, every claim becomes louder. This is why entering retirement with consumer debt can be so dangerous. It steals flexibility exactly when flexibility matters most. A retired person with low expenses can adapt. A retired person with payments stacked like bricks has very little room to move. If inflation raises food prices, if insurance jumps, if prescriptions cost more, if a family member needs help, the person with no payments can absorb some of the shock. The person with debt has already promised part of tomorrow to yesterday. Buffett has always been careful about leverage because leverage removes options. It can make good times look better, but it can make bad times unforgiving. In personal finance, debt often works the same way. It allows you to pull future spending into the present, but retirement is when the future finally sends the bill. The especially brutal part is that many people do not retire with debt because they were foolish. They retire with debt because they were trying to maintain normal life. They helped children. They covered medical costs. They refinanced. They used credit cards during a layoff. They replaced a car when the old one broke. Life happened. But numbers do not become gentle just because the story is sympathetic. Interest still compounds. Payments still arrive. Retirement planning must include an honest attack on debt long before the retirement party. Not all debt is identical, and a low fixed mortgage is different from high interest credit card debt. But the principle remains. The fewer mandatory payments you carry into retirement, the more your income belongs to you. Freedom is not just having assets. Freedom is having fewer people with a legal claim on your monthly life. A person with a modest retirement income and no debt may sleep better than someone with a larger account balance but expensive obligations. Peace often comes from subtraction. Fewer payments. Fewer emergencies disguised as lifestyle. Fewer promises made to lenders. Fewer ways your future can be cornered. The fifth brutal truth is the most emotional one. No one is coming to save your retirement in the exact way you hope. This does not mean there are no safety nets, no family support, no government programs, or no help. It means you cannot build your entire future on assumptions you do not control. Many people quietly assume something will work out. Maybe social. Security will be enough. Maybe their house will keep rising. Maybe their children will help. Maybe they will work longer. Maybe an inheritance will arrive. Maybe expenses will go down. Maybe they will not need much medical care. Maybe the market will do well at exactly the right time. The problem is not that every assumption is false. The problem is that retirement becomes fragile when too many assumptions must be true at the same time. Working longer is one of the most common backup plans, and for some people it works. But it is not fully under your control. Your health may change. Your employer may change. Your industry may change. Your energy may change. Age discrimination may appear quietly. A spouse may need care. A parent may need care. The plan to work until 72 can disappear at 63, not because you lacked discipline, but because life did not ask your permission. Inheritance is another dangerous fantasy. Some people spend decades believing money will come from parents or relatives, but those relatives may live longer, spend more on health care, change their plans, remarry, help other family members, or simply leave less than expected. Counting on inheritance before it exists is like building a house on fog. Family support can also be complicated. Your children may love you deeply and still not have the money to rescue you. They may be raising children of their own, dealing with housing costs, student loans, job instability, and their own retirement fears. No loving parent wants to become a financial emergency for their children, but that is exactly what can happen when planning is replaced by hope. This is why personal responsibility in retirement is not cold or selfish. It is an act of love. It means you are trying to reduce the burden your future may place on the people you care about. And this is where the Buffett style of thinking becomes powerful. You do not need to predict everything. You need a margin of safety. In investing, a margin of safety means leaving room for being wrong. In retirement, it means building a life that can survive surprises. Save more than the minimum. Spend less than your maximum. Diversify your income sources. Keep emergency cash. Avoid high-interest debt. Invest consistently. Understand what you own. Do not gamble your future on trends you cannot explain. Do not let fear push you into selling everything during a downturn. Do not let greed push you into risking money you cannot afford to lose. Build slowly enough that the structure can stand. Most retirement disasters are not caused by one missing trick. They are caused by a lack of margin. No room in the budget. No room in the portfolio. No room in the timeline. No room for health problems. No room for inflation. No room for family emergencies. A life with no margin may look successful during calm years, but it becomes terrifying when the wind changes. The good news is that brutal truths are only hopeless if you discover them too late and refuse to adjust. If you are 30, 40, 50, or even 60, the answer is not panic. Panic is expensive. Shame is useless. The answer is to become honest. Look at your real spending, not the fantasy version. Look at your debt, not the minimum payment. Look at your retirement accounts, not the number you wish were there. Look at your assumptions, especially the ones that make you feel comfortable. Then begin building margin. Maybe that means increasing contributions by 1%. Maybe it means keeping your car longer and investing the difference. Maybe it means downsizing earlier instead of waiting until the crisis forces it. Maybe it means creating a simple portfolio you can actually stick with. Maybe it means building a small side income before you need one. Maybe it means having uncomfortable conversations with your spouse, your adult children, or yourself. Retirement rewards the people who tell the truth early. It does not require perfection. It requires direction. The person who starts late but becomes serious can still improve their future. The person who feels behind but cuts waste, pays off high-interest debt, and invests consistently is not doomed. The person who stops trying to impress strangers and starts protecting their future has already changed the story. Buffett's quiet. Lesson is that wealth is not built by drama. It is built by patience, discipline, and the refusal to let today's emotions destroy tomorrow's options. Retirement is not about becoming rich enough to live like someone else. It is about becoming secure enough to live without fear controlling every decision. It is about waking up and knowing your basic life does not depend on perfect markets, perfect health, perfect children, perfect government policy, or perfect luck. That kind of peace is not bought in one day. It is accumulated. It is built the way an oak tree is built, slowly, invisibly, through years of roots before shade. And maybe the most brutal truth of all is also the most freeing. Your retirement is being built right now, whether you are paying attention or not. Every dollar is choosing a side. Every habit is casting a vote. Every year is either planting roots or making excuses. The future does not need you to be brilliant. It needs you to stop pretending there will be a magical rescue later. Start where you are. Reduce what owns you. Invest what you can. Protect your time. Respect compounding. Build cash flow. Leave margin. And remember that retirement is not the end of work. It is the point where the life you built either begins working for you or quietly asks why you waited so long.